Okay. Thank you for tuning in to the Taking Back Texas Election Integrity Training video, episode 2. Let me get to the right screen over here. So, Taking Back Texas is our group. We train and deploy poll watchers. You can go to takingbacktexas.org and read some of our investigative reports. We do train and deploy poll watchers, and they are excellent, amazing volunteers. They come back and they help us draft those investigative reports. So please take the time to read them. Worked really hard making them as concise as possible. And we're going to keep these videos short and sweet, kind of like me. Am I right, guys? So thank you for tuning in. We'll probably review some of what we learned in the last episode, you know. But just for review's sake, this is our election integrity training. This is a supplemental guide to accompany the Texas Secretary of State's poll watcher certification and training, which is available online. This guide is meant to help you understand which aspects of our elections are vulnerable to manipulation and obfuscation. Please equip yourself with a notebook and several pens, and be sure to take the short state certification course and print your certificate. This is required by state law for acceptance of a poll watcher. That's due to SB 1. SB 1 now requires you to have the state certification from the Secretary of State's office. They want to make it look like they know what's going on around here, and they really care. So that's now a requirement. It wasn't before, but now it is. Okay, this is what we reviewed in the last episode, so we'll go over this again. And maybe I'll turn off the light so that we can see it a little bit better. The colors really pop. See that? Looks pretty good. All right. The National Constitution, Article 1, Section 4, states that the times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof, but the Congress may at any time by law make or alter such regulations except as to the places of choosing senators. So this basically just says, we covered this in the last video, that our election laws are to be determined by each state and by the legislature thereof. However, the U.S. Congress can issue regulations that those states must decide amongst themselves how they will meet. An example of that would be HAVA, the Help America Vote Act. Congress can say, okay guys, we're doing all paper ballots now, so discuss amongst yourselves, you know, how you're going to meet that regulation. Okay? We covered that in the last one. So in this episode, we're going to go over the Texas State Constitution's article on suffrage, and one particular section, 2C. Article 6, Section 2C of the Texas State Constitution states that the privilege of free suffrage shall be protected by laws regulating elections and prohibiting under adequate penalties all undue influence in elections from power, bribery, tumult, or other improper practice. Okay. So, this is pretty self-explanatory, I believe, but just for the sake of emphasis, let's go over this one more time. The privilege of free suffrage shall be protected by laws regulating elections and prohibiting under adequate penalties all undue influence in our elections from power, bribery, tumult, or other improper practice. Okay? Improper practice is necessarily a bit of a wide net of a term that's being cast. So inherent in improper practice would be violation of state election codes, violation of constitutional articles from state and national constitutions, which are truly the only law of the land, are the constitutions state and national, and they match. Now in Texas, our election laws are called codes. Okay, so Texas state election codes. Texas election codes are found within the Texas statutes. Texas statutes are pieces of legislation drafted, debated, and passed by our state legislature. Election codes are effectively law when they adhere to the state constitution's article on suffrage. And what I mean when I say that they're effectively law when they adhere to the state constitution's articles on suffrage, I mean that literally. If a law is drafted, debated, and passed, or a code is drafted, debated, and passed by the legislature, and in effect it violates or opposes the Constitution, state and national, it's not law. Because, I mean, raise your hand. Who here follows unjust laws? No, put your hand down. We do not follow unjust laws. If a law, or if a code or a statute, in effect, violates the Constitution, state, and national, it's rendered null and void. However, if it adheres to the Constitution, state, and national, then it's effectively law. Okay, you understand? So we've got a bit of a dilemma in Texas, and I've noticed that this is not limited to Texas, but it's in other states as well. We've got a bit of an issue with interpretation of election codes that are constitutionally ordained to be drafted, debated, and passed by our state legislature. Okay? We've got a Secretary of State, and I don't mean John B. Scott. I mean the Shadow Secretary of State, Keith Ingram, who's taken it upon himself to reinterpret the laws in such a manner that effectively circumvent and violate and oppose state law related to elections and our constitutional articles on suffrage, both state and national. Nowhere in any of this does it say that any entity other than the state legislature and the United States Congress has the power to set election codes or alter them. So we'll go over in the next episode a few specific examples of Mr. Ingram's suspect legal opinions related to election codes, because this is the crux of the issue here, is that our elections are totally unlawful. They're not adhering to state election codes, which adhere to the national and state constitutions.